Hello, I'm Chris Solo, and welcome to the Fabled 42, where we build community through friendship, gaming, and chaos. You are watching Quests and Answers, where we go on a quest to find your answers. Today we are talking about the Sorcerer class in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Very special guest, Taryn. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Taryn Hackett. You can catch me on Instagram because that's the only social media I deal with, at Valrook, Valrouk, and I make nerdy things and post pictures of my fuzzy cat.
And we're very grateful for all of those things considered.
Yes.
Very excited to talk about sorcerers. I've actually never played one. I was going to play one on a certain campaign called Legends of Shalgal, but I was removed from that, and the salt will continue to flow. Talking about sorcerers and all the fun ways to be a sorcerer, but let's talk about why. When you're looking at all the different spellcasters to be, why choose a sorcerer over a wizard, for example?
Because your class buffs are so much better than Wizards class buffs. Prove me wrong. Okay, so sorcerers, you don't have to have a spell book. The abilities they give you are a lot of utility for yourself and sometimes your party as well. So you're a spellcaster, but you have a little more mobility.
Mm-hmm.
You have more fun ways to play with a sorcerer, with your casting, and you get meta magic, which means you can take spells that are a touch only and turn them into ranged. And with certain sorcerer subclasses, that immediately becomes just absolute bamf. It's all flavor too.
You know, that being said, there's a new with Tasha's feat that allows any class to take 2 sorcery points and do the same thing. Warlocks. But we'll talk about that later. Yes. So there's so many fun things about that. We'll talk about feats too, about sorcerers in a second. So when someone's creating a sorcerer, what are some things that they should have in mind as they're creating this character? There's certain directions you should go. If they've never made one before, is there a certain origin they should probably pick, or how does that work for you?
As in general as a player, I'm all about the flavor. So I wouldn't say that anyone in particular is going to be easier. I know that I'm not sure what the title ended up being, like the Psionic Soul Sorcerer, whatever one that ended up being from Tasha's. That one's a little more complicated because of the mechanics behind it with the psionics die. But in general, it's really just go with the one that fits your story. Or if you're like, I really want to be a sorcerer and I don't know where to begin, pick the subclass that sounds really cool. My favorite thing about the sorcerer is that immediately the moment you choose one, you have a massive splash of flavor for your character. Yeah. Because the coolest thing about them is you are born with this magic in you. It is coming from within you. It's not something you paid for. It's not something you studied. You just have it, which there's lots of fun with that. You can be, chaotic and discovering your powers. And so you can have lots of fun blunders with that. Yeah. But just pick the one that fits your character that you're going into. Or like I said, pick one and then roll with it, because you can have everything from dragon blood to some kind of sylvan magic to one of my absolute favorites. You can be I think this one is the divine soul. And there's lots of stuff, fun stuff to play with that too. So it's just go with it.
It's just so fun to play with sorcerers in that regard, and that's why I was excited and why there's so much salt about that one character, because it's one of the top characters on the shelf that I want to play because he doesn't know he's a sorcerer. So I was going to sandbag for a bit until we got to that point. So that was kind of a fun mechanic and thing that I wanted to play with. And it would be like X-Men, right? One of those reactionary things, like, no! And then you're like, oh, what just happened, right? And kind of feeling that, unpack that. Aberrant Mind, I think is what it's called.
The Aberrant Mind, yes.
Aberrant Mind, yes.
Yes. Oh, it's so... That was the one when it came out in an Unearthed Arcana. Everybody at that point was still obsessed with the divine soul, because you basically get the best parts of being a cleric, but now you're a sorcerer.
Yes.
And you don't have to have any. As a player, I always hate having to have a patron to make happy. So I was like, you mean I can do all of this and then you can be dark about it? But Aberrant Mind dropped and everyone went look at that. It was the meme of the guy turning his head looking at the chick walking by. That was everybody.
Yeah, the one that we've seen way too many times. Yes. All right. So There's so many new, and I haven't looked at Sorcerer in a while, so I don't know when some of these came in to be these different origins. But let's talk a little bit more about the other origins. So we've talked about the Aberrant Mind. We know Divine Soul. We all are very familiar with Divine Soul. I see Clockwork Soul in here, which that looks new and delicious.
It is new, and it is delicious. It is really interesting. I think it gets overlooked a bit because I think as far as it's an odd one, and I think, and depending on your setting, it could probably be a weird one to mix in because it is essentially you're dealing with time, and there's hinting at mechanics. So I don't know. There's some really cool ways I want to play with this. I'm actually working on building a Clockwork Sorcerer just for fun, a Tabaxi named Scratch. Yes, I know, with a wandering eye, and it's adorable. But I'm trying to find a way to make it work depending on the setting, because it is an odd one. But you have stuff with Clockwork that's you can just take away advantage or disadvantage. Just take it away. It's just gone for a buddy or yourself. I think you can do that twice per day or something like that. And it has abilities like that. It's really utility.
Oh yeah, That's how it reads.
But it's really cool, and I want to dive more into it because it just thematically it's really awesome.
Yeah,
I feel like it needs to mix with the Dunamancy, like. That would be the only thing I would want to find a way to mix those two. Is it needs Dunamancy, and then it's just you are a Time Lord. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, and at that point, do you take 14 Wizard and 6 in Sorcerer, or the other way around, right? Like what?
Right.
Yeah. Which direction do you go to be this Time Lord? It does look fun. I definitely want to play with that a little bit more. And the Draconic Bloodline, we all know about that too. You get cool dragon wings later or whatever.
Yeah.
Shadow Magic. I feel like this is old, but I don't remember.
It is old, and it's okay. So, as a DM, one of my players chose this, and it was so much fun to weave in and play with because, especially if you combine it with the Shattered Kai, which they're great Shadow LV guys, anyways.
And sprinkle a little corruption magic in there.
That would it would be just glorious because basically she was a sorcerer who was bamfing around in shadow in the battlefield, popping up, doing this really dark stuff. And it was just thematically, and for her, super friggin' fun. Is
there ability to vamp through shadows?
When you're a Shatter Kai and you have the Shadow Sorcery, yes. The Shatter Kai have it's essentially Misty Step. They can just do it. And again, it's all about the flavor because you can just...
Well, because in Corruption Magic, without going down a tangent, there is a spell called Shadow Stride, which takes the Tree Stride spell. So any shadow that you can see, you can vamp to it, which is... Oh, it's so good. Yeah. I need to finish that School of Magic. That's a different
Yes,
segment.
you do. And then just let all of my characters use it.
Maybe.
We're fine.
I do want to talk about something else too. So the other one that is always, it's fun and game breaking, and I've had a couple people use it. Wild Magic.
Wild Magic is a beast unto itself because you don't. As a player, it sounds so cool. As a DM, you're like, oh, that is really cool, and then you start sweating a little bit because there are absolutely broken things. What I did when I had a player that wanted to do it.
Yes.
Yep. I went through. I left most of it alone, and then some of it I swapped out a couple for roll a d6, and then I for each one number I had a different color, and it was your skin changes to this color for 24 hours. I just took some of it out because I was like, no. You screw up, and now you have a donkey tail. Congratulations.
Yes. So I actually, because, we joke about the 42, right? The 42 die, or rolling the 3 different dice at 42. So I'll probably redo the table that I have for a 42-sided die because the odds are much greater in your favor of hitting a 42. Trying to hit a 42 with a D20, a D10, and a D12 is dumb. That means you have to hit top and all 3 at the same time, so the chances are insane. But I have a new table for sorcerers, for wild magic specifically, and it's 42 options. And if you hit that 42, you regain all health points, spell slots, and sorcery points. It's like you committed, you did a long rest.
That's so...
but the odds of that hitting is whatever. And I hope it happens during a game. God bless America, do I hope it happens in a game.
That would be beautiful.
The roof would fall off. It would be shaking so much.
It would break.
But, it's fun to have those things, because that's why I created Kavak's Bag of Fate a while ago, was taking the deck of many things and molding it and modifying it to where it's not as damn game breaking. Because like if you're at a home table, who cares? But if you're doing a stream, that's life changing, right? So making everything more quest oriented. Same thing with Wild Magic is, you know, if you have a donkey tail, now you have to figure out how to get rid of a donkey tail, right? So like that becomes kind of fun. It's not super game breaking, and you just kind of stay on brand. But it's one of those fun things.
Well, and it's totally one of those things where like it changes the game a little bit, and sometimes it's just a character thing. Like my player honestly just embraced that and was just like, you know what, I got a tail now, and I'm gonna roll with it. And I was like, you know what, good job, dude, because that was gonna hurt.
Yeah. Well, so I have one. So it flips on both sides, right? So rolling 3 natural ones, opposed to rolling a 10, a 12, and a 20 at the same time is just crazy. So if you roll a natural 1 on my Wild Magic table, you reincarnate yourself instantly.
I love it. Okay, Reincarnate.
That's terrible, but it's amazing.
Reincarnate is like one of my favorite. Yeah. It's one of my favorite rebirth spells to play with, because you don't know what you're coming back at, and then I also have a 42
table for Reincarnate as well, which we'll get there.
That is beautiful, and I need all of these charts.
Yes. Well, it's just funny because it's like it's all these things, and we talk about this in all these games all the time, that there's all these fated things that just happen, and you're like, wow, how did that happen? Like season 1 of Realms, Roman, who's one of my longest ranged players that I play, was an elf, and he had died, but he was essentially a champion for Eltora, who is the silver dragon, which we know what Eddie looks like right now, and in that point, right? So he was that gold dragonborn for Thora. So, but when we reincarnated and I rolled it, and I shared the table with the group before I rolled, and we rolled on Vorpal, he turned out to be a silver dragonborn. And I was like, what the
it's too perfect.
I need to go buy a lottery ticket. Like, what's going on right now? Like, It was just amazing. But we're swirling a little bit. But so coming back to sorcerers, and we've talked about the origins. We've talked about some of the other fun things. So let's talk about like the actual abilities of sorcerers. We're talking about like the meta magic and sorcery points, which is a super fun mechanic. What are some of your favorite meta magic choices?
Ooh, immediately twin spell so hard. Because I am a hyper aggro person, I am a hyper aggro player, and so you mean I can hit somebody in the face twice possibly?
Yeah.
Yes, please let me. And I think I can't remember if it specifies different target or same. But either way, for me,
you can spell sorcery points equal to the spell's level to target a second creature in range.
Yeah.
Which could be the same one or somebody else.
Yeah, well, and for me, either way, it's like, you mean I'm wiping the field or I'm hitting... Again, it's just, you're getting to... Once you start playing with... And then depending on the spell and you get really smart, I mean, you get the right player behind some of the meta magic, and even careful spell. Thank you for Fireball. Still a little dangerous there, but you can... Between careful spell, twin spell, and I think it's distant spell. Those ones are the ones that the moment I get it, I'm going with at least 2 of those, because especially at a low level, being able to twin something, you're a squishy sorcerer, you can start helping cleave a little better, and you're not you're reducing your risk for getting squished.
No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Anything else? I know there are some other things too. This is why I haven't played one, which was why I was kind of excited to play a sorcerer, because I know there are things with sorcery points and spell slots and all that stuff, which is why sometimes sorcerers take a couple levels in Warlock, because then they can they can recycle those Warlock spell slots for sorcerer points and stuff.
Yes, you can.
What does that look like?
Well, you can. I think you can spend sorcery points to get your spell slots back, up to a certain point. I think it's the max level is like 5th. Like eventually, the most you can bring back is a certain spell level. But I mean, especially if you're going through a dungeon crawl and you don't have time to rest, because I mean that's the bane of every caster, is eventually, unless you get your long rest, unless you are a warlock, you only have so long before you're spent. And then as a sorcerer, especially, you don't have. I mean, you don't have your like. Yeah, maybe you're proficient with a crossbow, cool, but being able to recycle some of those back in longer stretches is really, really nice.
Firebolt only goes so long. Like, yeah.
Cantrips they're getting better. I will say, as like content has continued to come out, cantrips are getting better, and you have a better selection. But for a long time there, it was like they're not going to save you. Like you can squeeze by and really hope you get through this boss battle with all cantrips. But
I feel like they changed that recently with Firebolt specifically, where you get more beams of Firebolt at level, just like Eldritch Blast. It's just with Firebolt. Yeah. I felt like that's been a more recent adaptation, which then it's not terrible, right? You're high level, you get 4d10 fire damage. Cool. Yeah, if you're tapped, you're tapped. Like if you're tapped, then either you're going to win this fight soon or you're going to die. Like that's the situation, so you might as well just accept it. Like use your movement to run is what you should be doing right now.
Exactly. Well, and that's some of the mechanics, some of the class abilities come into play and can help you in other ways. And I think it's Storm Sorcerer. After you cast a spell, you can basically the wind moves you like 10 feet away, so you have some mobility to play with there. And that's why I like the sorcerers. You have some options that give you that extra mobility that other casters don't necessarily have.
Yeah. So let's talk about some more fun abilities. So not very origin specific, but like you said, like I've always loved Winsole, which you can fly, and I think you can bring your friends to fly too. Is that the one, or is that a different
I believe
one?
So.
The chosen creatures gain magical flying speed. Yeah, so you're immune to lightning and thunder. You can fly, and you can make everyone else fly. Like that's amazing.
That's instantly amazing.
But also they have, so this is the fun thing. So like certain classes are built to multiclass and certain ones aren't. Sorcerers are built to multiclass because there's nothing at 19 or 20, right?
No.
So like why don't you have 2 levels in Warlock? I'll wait. Like but some things like Wizard you kind of have to go all the way. Like so there's certain ones, Barbarian you should, because you'll get a lot more hit points and your strength and your con go flying up. But whatever. But Sorcerer is definitely
I think that's even like I don't know. I there very rarely do I as a player not splash Sorcerer. Even if I'm not a sorcerer, I almost always splash because there's so much flavor involved, and then you have a bit of that casting, and then usually, like honestly, your third level abilities that they give you they're always great for some kind of utility. I think there are very few sorcerer subclasses that I'm like, I don't care about your ability, but they're made for it, and so like honestly the sorcerer Warlock combo is great because you're already both charisma, like your charisma casters already. It's also fun thematically for lots of reasons. But I think in general, some of my favorites are still like, I wouldn't say as a sorcerer class as a whole that Storm Sorcerer is amazing, because like really their 3rd and 6th level abilities are probably the best ones, and then after that they just kind of fizzle and they don't hold up compared to like the Dragon Soul. Like again, you get dragon wings and you're have dragon breath. You're just but again, thematically, you're a caster who can cast a spell and then poof away from stuff. I love it. You're bouncing around hitting people in the face.
Why not? Why
wouldn't you?
Amazing. So what is probably the best feat a sorcerer should take?
I was actually looking through this the other day. The list of feats has gotten so long, and I haven't gotten a chance to go through Tasha's. Usually I do anything. It's crazy, and I'm gonna run into problems when I get to play a sorcerer again. Honestly, any class I'm running into problems, but I specifically for that Clockwork, I started looking and I was like, man, there's so much. Usually my first go-to is something for defense or something to make me like something to make me harder to hit, just because I don't want to die. I'm an AC builder as a person. I like to make it really hard to hit me because I don't want to die. I like my characters and I want to protect them as much as possible. So it's usually that's the route I go, or anything, honestly, if you don't have really high charisma, anything to boost your charisma or give you advantage. I mean, anything like that. But yeah, usually I just go for something that makes me hard to hit. I forget which one it is off the top of my head immediately.
Yeah.
I think, no, it's not mobile. Mobile is the melee, but that's usually, again, that's just the route I go.
Yeah.
Defensive.
Cool. So last 30 seconds, real quick. What is your favorite origin and why?
Ooh, I love Divine Soul. I do, because I can heal and kill people. I get to do everything. That's my favorite. But thematically, because when you start delving into Celestial, it's not just a deity. You can find really cool beings in D&D lore.
You can do 18 levels in Divine Soul and 2 levels in Celestial Warlock, and all of a sudden your AC is up and you got some fun stuff. Yes, amazing.
Yes, you do. And I have not totally already done that before with a tiefling named Vega.
That's amazing. Well, thank you very much, Taryn, for joining us today in our episode of Quests and Answers, where we went on a quest to find the answers for the Sorcerer class in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. If you liked what you just saw, go ahead and smash that subscribe button down below. Taryn, where can everybody find you?
At Valrook, Valrouk on Instagram.
Amazing.
And all the time on Fable.
All the time. I'm Chris Solo. You can find me at DM Chris Solo on all the social medias. And again, this is Quests and Answers, and we'll see you guys next time.